Well, folks, I can't believe this, but the time has finally arrived. After 12 plus years of running this channel and hundreds of classic pay-per-view reviews under my belt, it is time at long last to finish the story of WCW in the year 2000. Over the years, I have covered plenty shows from this year in scattershot order, and then throughout much of 2025, I have been revisiting some of those shows like Super Brawl 2000, like Halloween Havoc 2000. I've filled in the gaps for shows like the Great American Bash and Fall Brawl. And today, on this video, we are going to cover the penultimate show of WCW in the year that was, as we head toward the final starcade of WCW history. Let us see how we get there with WCW Mayhem 2000 from November 26th at the US Cellular Arena in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This show was nominated by Loon96 over at patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. It has truly been a lot of fun going back and revisiting this crazy year, seeing the highs and the lows, mostly the lows, but it's been very interesting to see just how they get from point A to point B, or in my case, jumping ahead the timeline where we go from, the springtime to the fall and everything's radically different. This company is unrecognizable from where it was during this time 1 year ago. But like I said, there are some good things for WCW during this time. International touring is on the up and up in the year 2000. In fact, one of the biggest shows they did all year was a pay-per-view, a German exclusive pay-per-view in Oberhausen called the Millennium Final. And I did review that show exclusively for the Patreon backers. So if you go to patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret, you will get exclusive access to my Millennium Final pay-per-view review. That show took place just between Halloween Havoc and this one, Mayhem. So now, after this show, after this review, all the holes in WCW in 2000 will be filled. Let's break down the show logo, shall we, folks? It's a hurricane. It's an explosion. It's a Beyblade. It's Mayhem. I hate this freaking logo. There's no consistency or there's no connection at all to, say last year's Mayhem logo where it was a tie-in with the video game. In fact, there's really no tie-in with like WCW. There's no traditional logo anywhere on this branding, not even like the crappy WCW magazine logo they used for a little bit. Consistency is key is all I'm saying. 3,800 folks attended this show live, 55,000 pay-per-view buys in total. And again, I have to compare it to last year's numbers, and it's always sad to look at how last year's Mayhem, that was a show where Bret Hart won his first WCW championship. That had 13,000 people in Toronto and got 4 times as many buys. Holy shit. You got Tony Schiavone, Mark Madden, and Stevie Ray on the call for this show. I'll tell you what, these guys have been working together for at least a couple of months by this point, and it baffles me just how there's no chemistry, no flow with these three guys. I know by this point, Tony Schiavone is totally checked out. He probably hasn't worn a tie to work in about 6 or 7 months, but then you've got Stevie and Mark on either side of him, and they are not helping. Everyone just talks over each other. No one can get a clear thought in. It's madness. It is so frustrating to hear these guys talk. The show begins, we see earlier today, everyone runs up to Booker T to get autographs from him. Where the hell is security? Booker's like, I'll get you all later, and he leaves. Then we see Scott Steiner being told he has to sign in, so he takes Fit Finley's pen, he gathers up the other guys' pens, he lines them all up neat in a row, and then he splats them with his lead pipe. Oh, he's crazy! The duality of man to set up the main event for tonight's show. And speaking of crazy, we go to the opening package where you see Scott Steiner in the padded room, and you see all the definitions for words like unstable and dangerous and all that. We get a look at the caged heat up above the ring, and then we go to this recap of what happened minutes before they went on the air, where CEO Ric Flair addresses the crowd. Here's what he's got to say. Well, I hope you folks in Milwaukee enjoy the show tonight. Woo! And that was it. That's all they showed. Okay? That was not meant for air, guys. That was just supposed to be Ric Flair in half energy, because he knew the cameras weren't rolling, hyping up the crowd. I could not believe that they included that. What purpose did that serve? It was more useful for John Laurinaitis to show up at the top of Survivor Series 11 and say hello. Anyway, the opening matchup for the Cruiserweight Championship sees Mike Sanders defending against Kwee-Wee. Kwee-Wee won a 6-man match on Thunder to win the #1 contendership a couple weeks back, and of course Mike Sanders, being the commissioner of WCW, trying to subvert Kwee-Wee Kwee-Wee as he can. On the go-home week before the show, he put Kwee-Wee in a matchup against Goldberg, and that of course featured one of the greatest spears of all time. I think it was the first time anyone took a spear like that in WCW. That was Sanders' plan, to get Kwee-Wee beaten up for him on Sunday, but then CEO Flair immediately puts him in a match with Goldberg right afterward, which sees Goldberg spearing Sanders out of his shoes. So it's all even now. And folks, ooh, get ready for this one. It's an odd couple pairing. Oh, we love those most of the time. This one has Kwee-Wee getting some help from the man called Ming, which probably has Ming looking at, the dates on his contract at this point in time. All I'm saying is the Royal Rumble 2001, it's getting very close. Before the match begins, Sanders is on the mic saying, "I don't even know you anymore." And he goes, "Here's how we handle biatches." And then he smacks him, which has awakened Angry Allen now. So he's starting off hot against the champ. The rest of the Natural Born Thrillers show up at ringside. Then the referee's got to look like a big fucking idiot to avoid seeing Mark Jindrak getting in the ring. The big guys hit the double Beal from the outside in. Kwee-Wee is caught and hit with an above average power slam. Paisley, by the way, left when the Thrillers came in, but she has come back now sporting a new hairstyle and coming out with the man called Ming. Ming's got the Tongan death grip locked in on a couple of them. He cannot be stopped. Security has to come in to separate them. Seeing Stasiak passed out on his knees because he's in the hold forever is so funny. Now Ric Flair comes out and gets everyone to the back as the match continues. And by the way, where is all this personality Mike Sanders is showing off here? Where has that been in the months leading up to this? Help me give a shit about you by being an interesting character. He's finally showing a bit of a personality here, but it's so unlike what he's been doing. It's like, where's this coming from? We get this big comeback by Kwee-Wee. He goes for a sunset flip powerbomb to the outside, but Sanders counters into a Hurricane Rana. Back on the apron, Paisley's up there slapping Sanders in the face. Kwee-Wee using the fro wig as an equalizer. Then Paisley just gets in and hits a damn Muda handspring back elbow. And oh, by the way, what is happening with this camera shot? Some weird video game filter where she's doing the move and all of a sudden the film is breaking? What's happening there? Sanders is able to fight back and hit the 3.0, aka Randy Orton's cutoff move, to win and retain. I'll give it 2 stars out of 5. I think once you get past the early bullshit with the Natural Born Thrillers and Meng and all that, it does settle into an okay matchup. It's not great, and I mentioned this in my Millennium Final review, I don't think these two have the best chemistry. Some moments of brilliance, but that's pretty much all we got in this one. We go to the promo zone with Ric Flair, and he wants to lay down the law and says that WCW is about wrestling, and he says that except for managers and valets, nobody else is allowed at ringside. This is to help prevent the outside interference we've been seeing. This is the first of many, 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 many backstage segments and interviews you're going to see packed in like sardines on this show. And also, keep in mind what Flair is saying here about this edict that, nobody's allowed at ringside except for managers and valets, and it's to help prevent interference from happening. Remember all that now. Elsewhere, Disco and Alex Wright are seen negotiating with Kronik. Disco is still injured ahead of this tag team match they have with the Filthy Animals, and so they want to hire Kronik to join Alex Wright and make it a handicap match. And Disco's rationale is, hey, for this money, we can get you for 15-minute matchup, we can get each of you for 7 minutes. And then Kronik renegotiates and says, okay, you can have the 2 of us for 7 minutes or 7:30, and then that's it. At 7:31, we're out of here. And Disco seems pleased by the deal. Alex is pissed. More on that later. Back in the promo zone, MGO is with Jamie Knoble and Evan Karagias, the K&K connection. Oh, I should never call them that again. Gene's like, you're facing former tag team members tonight, guys. And Evan says, jealousy will get you nowhere. And 3 Count was jealous of him and his Cadillac rolling in North Kakalaki. And then Jamie Knoble pipes up. He's like, oh, you're from North Carolina? I played football in Ashbrook. And so suddenly now they have this mutual bonding moment over North Carolina. And then Evan Karagias is like, oh, I hooked up with this girl named Rebecca at Ashbrook. She was great. And then Noble's like, that's my sister you're talking about, and she always said some bad things about you. And then Evan's like, hey man, why do you gotta bring up the past? And then they both leave. And then Gene gets the last word in here. This feels like a new direction that the backstage interviewers are getting at this point, where it's like, okay, instead of having it just walk off with no tag out, now we're gonna have them sign off, but they gotta say some kind of funny line like it's laughing.
Could have been worse being from North Carolina. They could have been related.
Then elsewhere, 70s disciple Crowbar is hitting on some ladies. He walks into his locker room and he sees someone has sent him flowers with the message, "I'll be watching." And I'm not entirely sure that's where it was meant to go, but I'm pretty sure the payoff to this is Terry Funk. 3-team Cruiserweight action up next as 3 Count take on the Young Dragons and the K&K. I'm not calling them that again. So anyway, recently, 3 Count kicked out Evan Karagias, and the Young Dragons kicked out Jamie-san, the masked member of the group. And so now Knoble and Karagias are together to take on these other 2 teams. And so we've seen, and we are going to continue to see, what these 6 individuals will do for the Cruiserweight division in WCW. So let's see how it plays out here. First, we hear from 3 Count, and Shane says, "We heard that little promo in the back where Evan was talking about his Cadillac." And he says, "Your stick shift is just too small." And then it's time to get up off your feet, put your hands together, sing along with 3 Count because they're partying forever. The other 2 teams come out and the match starts out with some brawling. Shane and Shannon avoid friendly fire. The Young Dragons do as well with some mockery, which gets a pop. We get Evan and Shane, former teammates, going at it for a bit. Solid ring work by Knoble, but he's caught with a blind tag and a double team X-Plex, they call it. Kaz Hayashi comes in. He looks so intense and stiff against his opponents. Moore taking him down with the rocker dropper. Shane going for a super sunset flip, but Yang with a nice crisp kick to the dome. Yang with the hot tag going on this big run. Very close kick out at 2.9 here. Everyone's trading big old moves. Who the hell is legal in this match? Does it even matter? Now everyone just flies out of the ring here. And if that's not enough, Leia Meow puts the final exclamation on it, diving off the top and onto everyone. Now Jamie has produced a ladder apropos of nothing. Back in the ring, Shane jumps off the back of Yang and splashes Knoble. We get a double pin. The referee counts them both, then stops. That was kind of weird, but 3 Count hitting this great double team neckbreaker on Yang for the win. I give it 3.5 stars out of 5. Very fun matchup. I would have definitely put this first instead of Sanders versus Kwee-Wee, even though that one, I think it was there at the beginning to help set up that story arc of everyone's banned from ringside. So I understand why that match was there. That being said, the ladder involvement in this matchup felt kind of forced at the end, and the very ending, like double pin spot, did seem a little bungled, but those are kind of minor things. Besides that, it was just a very fun and exciting matchup between a lot of guys who are going to be like the present and future of the business. But wait, what's happening backstage? Bam Bigelow is standing over Mike Awesome, who's been laid out in the back. Bigelow says, "The 70s sucked," and then misses him with a chair. Sergeant AWOL shows up and chases Bigelow off and stares down at Awesome. And okay then, I feel that like Awesome and Bigelow have been involved in more like backstage scuffles on pay-per-view than they have been in actual matches. Backstage, Pamela Paulshock and her furry hat are with Disco, Alex Wright, and Kronik, and she wants to ask the Boogie Nights if they're broke, but Alex just grabs the mic and tells her to shut up, you gold digger. Disco promises a victory in under 8 minutes. Kronik reminds them they're out at 7 minutes and 31 seconds. Disco says his credit's good, just ask Pam, and then Pamela makes a gag about Disco at the end, and that's her sign-off.
Disco's credit? I heard he'd steal money from his mom if he could.
Mean Gene is backstage with Jimmy Hart, who's got a cast on his leg, and he might not be able to fight Mancow tonight. Fight Mancow? Why? Why are we doing this again? This already happened at Spring Stampede. It sucked. Why are we doing it again? Hey baby, I'm still trying to fight radio DJs, but no one's calling. Guess I'll just fight Mancow again, ha ha ha. But this promo is funny because Gene's like, hey, I heard you said some not so great language about the people of Milwaukee. Do you have anything to say about that? And Jimmy's like, I was misquoted, baby. I did not say Milwaukee is where the men are men and so are the ladies. I never said that, baby. And then a stagehand comes to take Jimmy away and he's protesting, and so I can't wait to go into that some more. Elsewhere in the Natural Born base, Sean O'Hare is so angry about the ringside band. He's just pounding away at the desk, and everyone just looks kind of sad about it. Then Reno stands up and says, don't worry about it. I'm going to win my match with Big Cheeto and Crowface. Well, here is a very pointless match. A rematch from their battle at Spring Stampede 2000. Oh wow, I can't imagine the business this must have done if they thought, let's go to the well one more time in November, as Jimmy Hart takes on the talk radio icon in Mancow. Once again, Mancow's theme is way too loud and drowns out the commentary. The crews are a bit different this time around. Mancow, I think, had one or two other people in his group of radio show freaks with him, and meanwhile Jimmy Hart had Hale last time. This time he does not even have Hale. So what the hell are we doing? I did get a laugh when Mancow was on the mic and referred to Mark Madden as a fat son of a bitch and a Brian Wilson lookalike. Jimmy limps down to the ring with his supposed leg injury and his very annoying theme song, I'm the one who knocked out Andy Kaufman. All my friends are legends in wrestling. So Jimmy apologizes to the fans and tries to make nice with Mancow. Mancow spits on his hand. He calls Jimmy Al Gore because he doesn't know when to say goodbye. And Mancow, meanwhile, compares himself to George W. Bush, and I'm gonna kick you in your hanging chads. Aha! Topical humor. Jimmy with a cheap shot with a crutch. Some of Mancow's goons jump Jimmy, then 3 count run in and take out the goons. Mancow attacks Jimmy with the other crutch. He rips off Jimmy's cast. He decks Jimmy with it and covers him to get the win. -4 stars. There wasn't even anyone to throw Mancow out of the ring this time. What the hell were we doing? Who was this for other than Jimmy Hart? Backstage, there were a bunch of EMTs tending to Mike Awesome and Crowbar standing over him just going like, what's happening? And my favorite part of this is the way Awesome sells. Like, while there's all this commotion and Crowbar's talking and there's the EMTs, you just hear Awesome over everyone just going, It's so funny. Elsewhere, we see the Misfits in action. The guys are all really upset they're banned from ringside. I just love how so many of the backstage segments on this show are all about people going, oh man, how else are people supposed to win their matches if we can't be interfering? But then in comes Ric Flair, who wants to have a private convo with Sergeant AWOL. Then elsewhere, Lance Storm is chatting with Bam Bigelow. In the promo zone, Pamela interviews the Filthy Animals, and Ray says that every time Disco has a plan, he fails, just like he fails at life. Damn, people have been harsh to this guy for a long time. He says, we partied too hard last night, and that's why Konnan isn't here tonight. That's a great thing you want to say out loud. And Kidman says that Disco isn't man enough to get in the ring without the help, and Konnan or no, they will take out the opposition tonight. Well, back in October, just before Halloween Havoc, Reno was awarded the Hardcore Championship, and since that pay-per-view's taken place, Crowbar ended up beating him for the belt with some help from Big Vito. And Vito and Reno, they've been at each other's throats ever since. The mystery surrounding why these guys have beef has still not been addressed yet, but stay tuned in the timeline for answers to that. But now we've got this hardcore triple threat match as Crowbar defends against Vito and Reno. The match actually starts out without Crowbar, but the champ finally makes his entrance and gets to whooping. Vito swings his kendo stick around on the outside. He even uses the title belt as a weapon. Then he gets out all this Italian-themed plunder, all these weapons with the Italian colors taped onto it. And then there's this one spot that is so scary because Vito takes this traffic cone, he puts it up against Reno's balls in the corner, and he's gonna hit the cone with the bat. And then it's gonna be like bat hits cone, cone hits balls, funny spot. But the way Reno does it, he swings past the cone and he just baps Reno right in the face. Holy shit, that had to have hurt. More stomping, more plunder, more confusion. What a stupid long way to go for that double team spot in the trash can. Vito comes back with some more kendo stick shots. It sounds like the crowd is chanting boring, but I can't tell. They're now fighting backstage. Reno clears off a catering table and slams Vito through it. He grabs a chair to finish the job when suddenly Marie, Vito's sister, gets in between them. That distraction is enough for Crowbar to jump Reno from behind and get the win to retain the hardcore title. Oof, that one was rough. I'm going to give it 1 star out of 5. Although I will say, they had a big missed opportunity here. When they went to the backstage area, that would have been a perfect time for them to throw up the little corner graphic saying, hey, backstage assault, the game is out. More awkwardly butted together promos. First we see Buff Bagwell showing up asking where the equipment truck is. Then we see Kevin Nash and DDP getting ready in the locker room. And I know that DDP has been gone for a little while here. I just don't know if he's really up to snuff or up to speed on Kevin Nash's little SOL inside joke he did with the Natural Born Thrillers for the last month.
It'll be SOL. What's that? Shit out of luck.
And then Paige just gives this look off camera like, are we done? And they just stay on it forever until they go to Mean Gene Okerlund in the promo zone with the Cat and Miss Jones. And Gene says, you are tasty indeed. Ugh. But the Cat's all about business. He says he's gonna beat up the franchise tonight, and if he can't, he'll kiss Shane Douglas's feet and leave the country for 30 days. He leaves, and then Gene just pervs on Miss Jones some more. Well, horny Mean Gene is back, folks. Up next, a handicap match as Alex Wright and Kronik take on Ray Jr. and Kidman, the Filthy Animals. So back in Oberhausen at the Millennium Final pay-per-view, Alex Wright became one half of the tag team champions. Disco also won the belts, but General Rection was filling in for him because of injury. So the Boogie Knights were the tag champions for less than a week. They dropped the belts back to the Perfect event when they get back stateside, and they seem to be being pushed as faces going into that Germany pay-per-view, because then right after that they're just back to being annoying heels that nobody likes again. And also with Kronik, it's just hard to tell what side of that face-heel spectrum they're on, because it feels they just kind of flip-flop every week at this point. So the match begins. Kronik is officially on the clock as Tigress joins the guys on commentary. And my favorite part of this match is where Disco comes up to the announce table and like, hey, look at what they're saying about me on WOW Magazine. And Shivani's like, whoa, WOW Magazine. You ever think about putting over your own magazine, Disco? Like WCW Magazine? Bryan Adams picks up Kidman. Kidman's meant to like slide down and piggyback Adams, but they slip and fall. They get back into it. Then Adams flips Kidman into a full Nelson for a slam. Again, another time in this show where it's a long way to go for this spot and it looks like shit getting there. Wright does get some shots in, but he tags Brian Clark in pretty quickly. I love when Stevie Ray mishears Tigress calling Ray Bobby instead of Poppy, and now he just calls him Bobby throughout the match. Clark catching Ray in the air, hitting a snug-looking powerbomb. He goes for the meltdown, but Wright insists on tagging in first. But then at 7 minutes and 30 seconds, the Bryans look at the stopwatch and go, okie doke, time to go, and they just leave as Disco is begging and pleading with them to stay, but it's all for naught. Alex is taken out with the Nutcracker Suite for the Filthy Animals to win this other kind of handicap match it's turned into all of a sudden. I give it 2 stars out of 5. It had its moments. I do think that the idea of like mercenaries for hire, but they dip out like partway through once like the demo time has expired or whatever, I think that's kind of a funny twist on the handicap match. So yeah, it was fine.
JCW Lunacy. New episodes every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on YouTube. For over 25 years, JCW has delivered the very best in pro wrestling entertainment, bringing fans deep storytelling drama, gut-busting comedy, and unbelievable in-ring action. From wild characters to unforgettable rivalries, JCW has built a legacy that spans generations of fans. Whether you've been watching since day one or you're brand new to the chaos, there's never been a better time to join the madness. See why JCW is the hottest promotion in independent wrestling today, where anything can happen, and usually does.
Take a look at this!
Don't miss a single moment. Tune in every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on YouTube and catch up on past episodes right now. JCW Lunacy. It's more than wrestling, it's a way of life.
Backstage, we see the Thrillers having a chat, and Mike Sanders says he's going to set it off tonight and says he has something special planned for the tag title match. Elsewhere, the Notorious MGO is with Scott Steiner and Medeja, and he says, Booker told me, Scott, you're going to have to kill him to take the title. Well, Gene, if you've seen Halloween Havoc, if the security wouldn't have saved Booker T, he would have been dead. You want death, Booker T? Death is ratings. Some people say I'm out of my mind. Some say my X and Y chromosome maybe ain't connected. Well, most people can't function in the state I'm in. And when I'm out of my mind, I'm at my best. We begrudgingly move on to this match of the grudge variety as Shane Douglas takes on the Cat. Last month at Halloween Havoc, Shane cost Ernest Miller the commissionership in that kickboxing match, so this is why they're wrestling tonight. Shane comes out first to the mic and says, the list of people who have threatened to kick his ass is very long indeed, so come on down and get added to the list and get your ass franchised. By the way, I love how people react so viscerally to the Shane voice, and that's just motivating me to do it more now. Well, the cat's got a microphone too. Yes, he gets to talk again tonight, and he says he's gonna twist yo ass all over Milwaukee. Shane goes outside, he just grabs Miss Jones's hair for no reason and gets kicked in the head for it. Mark Madden isn't even safe from the cat on the outside, and Stevie is losing it. The sounds he makes after Madden gets choked are amazing.
Mark, we need you to sit down here, bud. Sit down.
Are you okay, man? Madden, are you okay?
If you want to hold off for a second, we do understand.
Torrie Wilson with the distraction and some cheap shots allows the franchise to take over for a bit. The cat fights back with some corner punches, as you can hear both Madden and Stevie both trying to recover. Madden is trying to recover from getting assaulted, and Stevie's trying to recover from having witnessed Madden get assaulted. Cat hits the feliner but is unable to capitalize, so Jones giving him a little shove into the ring. Torrie Wilson gets involved, and now it's, as Stevie calls, a yak fight between the ladies. Douglas has seemingly acquired the telltale chain. He decks the cat with it. You think he's got the match won, but Cat gets his foot on the ropes. Shane's pissed, goes for a DDT, but the cat blocks it. Miss Jones slips on one of his red shoes. Torrie throws the chain into the ring but overshoots it. Shane turns around and walks right into a big kick. The cat wins, and he and Jones dance the night away. I give it 2 stars out of 5. I think that for a match with two people I typically hate, this match didn't totally suck. I think the best part of it was when Madden got, honestly. But it's so funny that like Ric Flair is like, only managers and valets are allowed at ringside because I don't want interference. And then you have the valets interfering. Backstage, Jeff Jarrett comes up to a pile of shattered guitars. Hey, who did this? The crew members say it might have been Buff. Then we see Pamela Paulshock with the Misfits in action, and she says, he who wins the battle wins the war. General Rection says it's not just about America and Canada anymore. Lance Storm made it personal when he went after Major Guns. And Corporal Cajun chimes in and says, and you can keep that bitch. Meanwhile, Pamela looks very uncomfortable in that hat. Then, oh no, a Glacier vignette. What is this, 1997? We see that blood runs colder. The world's about to change again. That is unbelievable that they're doing this. But what's even crazier to me is that you hear the announcers, their mics are open during this vignette, and they're just going, what? What is this? Oh dear God, no. Like they're feeling the same way the audience is feeling right now, which I never thought you would ever see in that. I would never, it's like, just to show you how seriously they're not taking this thing with Glacier. It's like intentionally meant to be mocked and laughed at. Like the announcers are just, they're having a laugh riot over this when the vignette's over. And Madden says, this is worse than when I got choked out 5 minutes ago. But this is meant to lead to a funny payoff. Glacier will come back and he's going to be even more exaggerated, like this superhero, like so full of himself and completely oblivious to everything around him. The stuff that he and Norman Smiley do in the early part of 2001, it's brief, but it's hilarious. Up next, we're meant to get Bam Bigelow versus Mike Awesome. Bam has the mic and says he has no opponent since Awesome's in the hospital, so he should win by forfeit. Then we hear Ric Flair's music, and I love Stevie Ray's reaction. What's that noise? Like you don't know? So Flair hits the stage and he lies about there being 10,000 people in the arena tonight. So he's got a surprise for Bigelow. Sergeant AWOL with a table. Wait, have they been spelling it AWALL this whole time? That's not how I write it in my notes. And they point out it's a regular match. And so Stevie's like, well, why is AWOL able to bring his table to the ring if it's illegal? And Tony just goes, that's his thing. Lots of punching and biting and scratching. They're working all 4 corners before Wall hits them with a flying clothesline. Bigelow counters a slam attempt with a cross body, Wall dodging a diving headbutt and fights back. At one point in the course of the match, Madden makes this Bon Jovi reference. He uses a line from You Give Love a Bad Name. And then like Stevie Ray, in a rare moment of like team chemistry and like on the same wavelength, Stevie adds on to that reference. So okay, that's nice, they're working together. And then Madden immediately dumps on it by going, oh, you got my Bon Jovi reference? You fucking idiot. The table is brought into the ring. Bigelow counters the choke slam and hits Greetings from Asbury Park to beat him, and I can't believe it, but nobody went through that table. What a ripoff. Bam wins, but then collapses in the ring right afterward. He is not moving for several minutes as the referee and the EMTs come out with a stretcher. Stevie Ray runs up and asks asks what is happening, and indeed, like, what is happening? It is a scary seeming situation here, but spoiler alert, he'll be fine, but I'm going to give this 1.5 stars out of 5. It's a very punchy, kicky match, you know. I wonder what the extent of Mike Awesome's injury was. This does not feel like a good replacement. It doesn't feel like a make good for a Bam Bam Mike Awesome match, honestly. So we see this drama with Bigelow continuing at ringside, but we go to the promo zone. Okerlund talking to Buff Bagwell, who's holding a broken guitar, and Okerlund tries to tie in with what's going on with Bigelow. He's like, hey, you've had some similar issues. You've had some neck problems before. You know, what do you think about this? And then Bagwell's like, you know, breaking your neck and having a cervical disc fix, and he tries to continue his promo, but at that point, he lost the crowd. When he said cervical dicks, no one took him seriously after that. They're like, oh, dicks. And so he's trying to say this line about, you know, Jeff Jarrett, you got no game plan now, but the fans couldn't care less. He said cervical dicks. The EMTs are still checking on Bam Bam as we play the hype video for the Canadian title match. Bigelow still on the stretcher, but the show's got to go on, so we go to that match for the U.S. Canadian Championship as Lance Storm defends against General Rection one last time between the two of them. So back at Halloween Havoc, like we saw, Rection defeated Lance Storm and Jim Duggan in a handicap match to win back the U.S. Championship, take that dastardly sticker off once and for all. But then a few weeks later, Storm got his rematch on Nitro. Major Guns betrayed Rection by throwing in the towel and joining Team Canada for reals this time. The Storm comes out first, his ribs are all taped up, and he makes reference to something that Rection has been doing lately in his promos, where he lists off all the injuries he's actively working with at that time. Like, I got no knees, my brain is broken, I got this and that. And so then Storm comes out with the taped ribs and says he's got cracked ribs and a bulging disc in his back, but you don't hear him complaining about it. And he says, I've taken your best friend, I've taken your girl, I've taken your title. The only thing I haven't taken is your country. But why would I want it? So Rection interrupts the Canadian national anthem, makes his way to the ring, but wait a damn minute, it's Bam Bam Bigelow. Oh, he's been faking it this whole time, and he jumps Rection before the match, and I could not stop laughing when I saw that. It's like, I didn't exactly expect that, but seeing Bigelow come barreling in with like the big hard plastic neck brace on, he looks like a big egg, just like crushing Rection from behind, was like one of the funniest fucking things I'd ever seen. And I guess his outside interference doesn't count because the match hasn't officially begun yet, and the match just starts despite Rection being unconscious on the outside. That seems really fair. Lance is working on the General's leg, Storm goes for a running attack in the corner, but Rection moves, and then it's crotch time, according to Shivani. Major Guns the distraction, allowing Lance to stay on top, but he comes back in a big way, goes for the moonsault, but Major Guns with another bit of interference. Storm can't capitalize, hits the moonsault for reals, the cover and the win. General Rection, once again the U.S. champion, and he has won the war. You know, back in the Halloween Havoc review, I said, well, this feels like kind of an empty win for Rection to win the belt off of, like, not the champion in the handicap match. But then they had the rematch, Storm wins it back, Guns is turned now. So this definitely feels like, okay, yes, this is the final time. There really should be a lot more attached to this. And I don't know, it just felt like it was kind of flat, like they cut something out. Like Bam Bam being the one to jump Rection beforehand, like, made no sense. Got a bunch of fans worried for nothing, killed a bunch of time for nothing, and then Bam Bam interfering doesn't even help Storm win the match. So what was the point of any of that? Backstage, we see Mike Sanders ordering Doug Dillinger to send all these security guys home for the night. Sneaky, sneaky. Then we get a promo for Starrcade 2000. Check out my review of that after this one. Up next, Jeff Jarrett takes on Buff Bagwell. Well, the last time we saw these guys, Jarrett had beaten Sting with the help of his army of fake Stings, and Bagwell beat David Flair in a First Blood DNA match, but still ended up bleeding by the end. A few weeks ago on Nitro, Jarrett El-Kabonged Bagwell during a tag team match, which is basically how we got here because there's so little other reason for them to be fighting at this point. Weird look for Jarrett here, soaking wet and without a guitar in his hand. He says that Buff thinks he was real clever. Hey, smashing all my guitars in the back, ho. But that's what separates me, the stupid superstar, from the slap ass like you. Hey. Yes, he did stumble his words and say stupid superstar when trying to put over how much smarter he was than Bagwell. But Jarrett says he still came prepared as the match begins. Nice back and forth with the two of them to start things off. Bagwell with a big hip toss to Jarrett out of the damn ring. Bagwell then grabs grabs a fan's foam finger and bops Jarrett with it. Jarrett takes Buff to Dick Kick City, grabs a chair, and gets to swinging. I guess this is no DQ. Nobody is complaining about Jarrett wielding a steel chair here when 2 matches ago, the Wall walked up with a table in his hand, and people are like, oh, can he do that? Jarrett works over the head and neck area, gets the sleeper locked in. Buff fights out of it. He puts the boots up on a flying nothing, starts to come back, hits a double arm DDT, signals for the blockbuster, but he gets none of it. He does fight his way to a tornado DDT, but Jarrett still kicks out. Jarrett with the baseball slide under Buff, taking out the referee in the process. That was pretty neat. Jarrett grabs a chair, but then David Flair shows up, getting some revenge from last week on Nitro, DDTing him on the chair. So what the fuck is that about no outside interference again? Jarrett falls out of the ring, but hark, he had one more guitar. El Kabong to Buff. Never mind the debris ref, the cover and the win for Jarrett. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars out of 5. You know, as overbooked as every Jeff Jarrett match is, unnecessarily so, as silly as it was for David Flair, again, this is the second time tonight where we get this interference and it doesn't cost that person the match. That person just shrugs it off and wins anyway. We just saw it in the last match too. So that aside, I think that these two still have a good chemistry and the story they were able to tell when it was just the two of them was fine. For the WCW Tag Team titles, the perfect event, Stasiak and Palumbo defend against the Insiders, Diamond Dallas Page and Kevin Nash. So for several weeks after Fall Brawl, Kevin Nash began coaching the Natural Born Thrillers. But it seems to me all he really taught them was how to appreciate Burgess Meredith's Penguin.
You know what that means. Took the words right out of your mouth, Tony.
During this time, Shawn Stasiak is showing signs of dissent, looking to perhaps break away from Nash's teachings, but it turned out to be a trap, and the Thrillers beat down on Nash. So Big Daddy Coolata called in an old friend. It's the return of Diamond Dallas Page, first time we'd seen him in 4 months. But it feels to me like they really rushed this storyline, and it also didn't make a lot of sense the way they paced it, because like the Natural Born Thrillers didn't debut that long ago, and they started out by shit-canning their old trainer in Paul Orndorff, so why would they just immediately fall in line with another leader, if not to betray him? But it seems they could have stretched this out a lot longer if they wanted to. Before the match, Mike Sanders makes his way to the ring and joins commentary, sounding very confident about his plan. The champs come out, but wait a minute, what's the deal with all these Natural Born Thrillers around the ring? Oh, the fix is in. They were brought in as the new security detail. Boy, it sure is easy to get around all of CEO Ric Flair's rules. There's some "We Want Hall" chants as the match begins. Keep chanting, folks, it's not gonna happen. Chuck Palumbo plays cat and mouse early on. He slaps Kevin Nash, but that just makes the big man upset. The security tries to run in and get involved. Finally, Ric Flair and the real security guys show up to get rid of the baddies. Sanders then pulls out an official manager's license from WCW, so that keeps him at ringside. Wow, this guy thought of everything. I'm rubber and you're glue, biatch. Shawn Stasiak's ping-ponged a little bit, but DDP is hit with a cheap shot. That allows the Young Guns to come back. DDP takes the heat for several minutes. We get a sunset flip attempt on Stasiak, and we get a full moon on pay-per-view. Palumbo with a lot of puntalumbos to DDP. Page makes a tag, but the referee misses it. More fighting. Page barely gets that hot tag to Nash, who's just all over the place. He hits Stasiak with the jackknife powerbomb, while DDP hits the diamond cutter to Palumbo. Nash with the cover, Sanders with a referee yoink. DDP hits the cutter on Sanders on the outside. Back to covering Stasiak. The Insiders win and become the new tag champs. I give it 3 stars out of 5. This was a pretty strong matchup, and I tell you, there's something to be said about a guy like Diamond Dallas Page, who is so meticulous about his matches and what he does and match structure that, you know, you put him and another veteran like Nash in with a couple of young guns and, you know, they tell the story well. I will say that. I do think all the bullshit with the security and the Sanders and this and that, it gets a little silly. But again, just the story of what happened in the ring, I thought was told well. But there would be controversy, because again, the Natural Born Thrillers got to keep throwing shit into the works. So after that, the Thrillers cry foul. They say Nash pinned the wrong member, the illegal man. So the belts went back to Stasiak and Palumbo after this, and they would have another match for the belts at Starrcade. Backstage, Pamela Paulshock is with Lex Luger, and she's asking, how are those those butterflies against Bill Goldberg, and Luger says, if I wasn't so intent on ending Goldberg's career right now, I'd expose you for being the two-bit incompetent two-bit interview you really are. And he says Goldberg could have done the right thing and helped him win the WCW title on Nitro this past week. Their match could have been for the title, but he failed, and now it's going to be a big retirement party for Goldberg. I do love this hype package they're running for the match, though. Huge draw, big muscles, bad man. Do not miss it. I love it's the same font they use in WCW NWO Revenge. So we go to this titanic clash as the total package Lex Luger takes on Goldberg. And as always during this time, if Goldberg loses, he gone. To me, Luger has felt so touch and go during this time. Like, we know where he's going to end up a month or so from now, but at this point it just feels to me like he doesn't belong anywhere in this picture. Jockeying for position early on, Luger with a nice back suplex, but Goldberg pops right back up, which freaks Luger out, but aha, he lures him in with an eye poke. Goldberg shrugs that off for a bit, but he's clotheslined out of the ring. Pretty rare bump for the guy. There's a funny line from Madden where he says, "Don't judge a book by its cover, because sometimes the cover is intentionally misleading you." Like, I guess I never thought about book covers that way before. This is a painful, lumbering match. Berg picks up Lex and slams him down, sets him up for the spear. He runs at him, but Luger pulls the referee into the way, and Goldberg spears them both. He picks up Luger, hits the jackhammer, new referee slides in to count the 3, and Goldberg continues his streak. I'm going to give it a half star out of 5. It's an ugly match. And it turns out, who knew that literally the difference between a good Goldberg match and a bad one is Scott Steiner. And like the tag title match before, this one also has controversy surrounding it, because God forbid we just put somebody over. Lex Luger complains the next night saying, oh, Goldberg speared the referee, he should be disqualified, he should be gone. And then Flair basically counters by saying, no, man, you pulled the referee in the way. So they would have a rematch at Starrcade. I loved this hype video for Booker Steiner because it uses some of the same music that would play in a lot of like WWF hype packages up until very recently. It's like the one that kind of sounds like Oh Fortuna.
But Steiner lost control.
Booker T, I proved that I got wings.
Oh, I marked out when I heard that too. It really took me back. Like, I really wish that like that bunch of songs, like the promo music from that time period, it was available on a CD or something, because man, some of those songs really hit. In your main event, it's a caged heat straitjacket match for the WCW Championship as Booker T defends once again against Scott Steiner. As we've seen over the last couple of months here in the timeline, Scott Steiner has gotten increasingly deranged, out of control. He's ultra violent. He's beating everybody with the lead pipe. We saw on Thunder a couple of weeks ago, he wrapped Sting up in a straitjacket and beat the bejesus out of him with it. Sting's been written off again. And of course, after the inconclusive nature of last month's title match at Havoc, we have ourselves a rematch. Only now it's in the big cage, and to further emphasize how crazy Scott Steiner is, there's now a straitjacket in the ring where you can put the guy in the straitjacket if he's been incapacitated enough. Now, I don't know about you, but if I've incapacitated my opponent enough that I can put him in a straitjacket, I think I would just pin him. The match begins with fists flying outside the ring as they close and lock the cage door. Medeja's in the cage with them as well, which seems to completely go against the point of the entire match. Stevie on commentary in this match, he puts over the history that he and his brother have had with the Steiner brothers, and Scott in particular, and he also brings up, hey, Booker told me before the show, regardless of what happens to me out there, like, don't run in and try and help. Very interesting foreshadowing there. Very physical back and forth here. Booker goes for the axe kick, but Steiner hits him with the clothesline. Scotty with a couple of big moves, but Booker fights back with a missile drop kick. Steiner's the first one to grab the straitjacket, but he gets dropped by Booker T. Booker then grabs the jacket and just takes all day with it. Even Stevie is yelling at him, screaming, "Stop doing that, just beat Steiner, you got him beat." So he finally gets it somewhat on him. Then he actually dinks Steiner in the head twice with a steel chair. Like, damn, where's this Booker T been? But then Steiner rips the straitjacket up, again, putting over how crazy and strong this guy is. That was a pretty cool visual. And he puts the Steiner recliner in on Booker, but somehow that is not the finish. Booker stands up and then drops Steiner onto the top rope. Okay, I've seen that spot 3 times now across this, Fall Brawl, and Millennium Final. 2 of these involved Booker T, and this was not the best of the 3. The bookend on Steiner, but Big Poppa Pump kicks out. He is starting to look real gassed though. Booker with the axe kick, but he's too tired to capitalize. Steiner grabs a chair. Booker does the spinneroonie, but spins right into a dink. Steiner with a weird-ass full Nelson drop. That looked rough. Recliner's back on. Booker is out, and the referee stops the match. Scott Steiner is the new world champion. And Stevie Ray is just going apoplectic over this. He's like, Booker didn't tap out. He didn't submit. And then Tony's like, well, the referee called the match. And Stevie just goes, you weren't in the ring. How do you know the referee wasn't in on it? Then after the match, Steiner gets the chair and beats the hell out of Booker T's legs with it, destroys the referee Slick Johnson with the chair, and just keeps swinging as the show goes off the air. I give this one 2 stars out of 5. As far as cage matches go, it was pretty shitty. Like, way to not utilize that gimmick at all in this match. They barely left the ring. The real crux of this match was the straitjacket. If you just had the straitjacket in the match by itself, then, you know, it would have been fine, I think. And I think also Steiner like pulling out and breaking out of the straitjacket, that was really impressive. And the fact that that was not the finish, I think was a little unfortunate. I think that would have been a much more powerful thing to end on than it did. But I think the effect was still very much there. Steiner's too strong. He's too powerful. This is his time. This is the beginning of the Scott Steiner era. And I remember during this time how like I, among a lot of other fans, thought that Steiner should have been world champion a long time ago. Like Big Poppa Pump was like tailor-made to be a world champion in WCW, but like by the time he was really at his peak, the depth chart was so stacked and there was no way he was going to like penetrate, you know, Hogan and Nash and Jarrett and Bret and Booker T and all that stuff. So Steiner being where he was, like that was death for him in his career. By the time he finally won the championship, we see where the company's going. And if you watch my Starrcade review, along with the reviews I did for Sin and Super Brawl Revenge and Greed, like the Scott Steiner championship reign is really shitty. And you'll have to go and see how shitty it gets. But at the time, it was definitely felt like, yes, this feels like justice. This feels like the right thing. You know, Booker T, great champion. We'll get back to him at some point. But, you know, Scott Steiner, it felt right for Steiner to finally get a world championship win here. My grade for Mayhem 2000, the final Mayhem in WCW history, is a D+. This is not a bad show. It's just a boring show. And to me, that's almost worse. This show could have used 3 or 4 fewer matches than what we had. Then I think the flow would have been better. And, you know, the show just would have been a lot stronger, honestly. So much to be said about, oh, no interference and this and that. But then, like, every match afterward clearly violates that. So it just makes Flair look like a goof. And it's something you will continue to see as the weeks and months go on at this point in WCW, and then they're going to try and like tie it all back to being, oh, it's not that he's incompetent, he's actually just been planting the seeds for this genius thing he's been doing. Oh, and then WCW dies. So yay, long-term storytelling playing a good role there. But this was just, yeah, there's like some good moments, but for the most part, you just had really weird swerves, a lot of interference, a lot of bullshit. It was just like, yeah, this show just didn't really do it for me. Nice to see Steiner finally get his moment, but it's too little too late. But that does finally complete my journey. I have finally filled in all the gaps for WCW 2000, and I am done with this blessed year, and what a ride it's been, you know, to finally complete the year that was, this historical year that even 25 years later, we still look back at and use that as kind of like the benchmark, the standard, or one of them at least, for what bad wrestling is. And certainly WCW in that last full year went through so many changes. It's a wonder they made it into 2001 at all. But it certainly gave me a lot of entertainment to look back at this time. It filled the nostalgic cockles of my heart, as this was still very young in my fandom, got me to kind of rekindle and reconnect with some of these memories of my childhood of watching during this time, thinking, man, it can be so much better. But what did you think of Mayhem 2000, and how about this review? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, hit the bell icon to get notifications for when stuff like this drops. Now, folks, like I said, I'm at the end of WCW 2000, but I thought that one more time, before this year is up, before we truly end, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to go to where all this madness of 2000 really took place, like the point where the butterfly effect really takes off. We have to go back to December of 1999. We have to go back to Bret Hart versus Bill Goldberg. We have to go to Starrcade 1999. But until then, folks, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.